England's a bit rubbish right now. Everything has gone up in price, whether it's fuel, heating, or the groceries. Why is this? Could be Brexit, could be Russia, or just general rubbishness. It's probably a bit of all these things. Energy prices were particularly terrifying. They were going up massively every 6 months, then they changed the rules to every 3 months, claiming it would help it to go down sooner, but it just meant it went up sooner instead. Had the government not eventually capped the pricing, then we'd be looking at electricity and gas prices 5 to 6 times higher than they were a few years ago. As it is, the price we're going to get is about double, and we're all relatively happy about that. But on the whole, still very sad. Put it simply, the idea of using the low-powered Steam Deck as my main gaming system sounded pretty damn sexy, until I realised that the savings were going to be totally dwarfed by how the fixed standing costs for energy are still going to go up so much for some inexplicable reason. Put it simply, everything going up is an excuse for everything else to go up more. Repeat. Yet despite this, inflation in England is only meant to be about 10%. But it definitely feels like the groceries have gone up by more than 10%, for reasons this video will be explaining. It essentially boils down to sneaky shrinkflation and limited availability of discounted offers. In this video I'll be talking about the price of beans, because it summarises the price inflation in this country quite nicely. I used to talk about how I ate beans and sausages, but a few years ago I decided to be healthier by switching to just beans, especially as it was also cheaper, a fact itself that makes food taste sweeter. Put it simply, Lidl and Aldi have the reputation of being the cheapest shops in the UK. When it comes to baked beans, they offer 3 tiers of pricing. They have the cheapest, which is normally about 22 pence per can, their own brand, which is more like 33 pence, and then Heinz, which is so much more expensive I don't care, nor do I know off the top of my head how much it costs. I found the mid-tier bean to be more consistent with its sauce-to-bean ratio, whereas the cheapest tins can sometimes be very watery or stingy with how many beans they have in a can. So for years I've been buying the mid-tier bean in the 4-pack variety for 95p, which cuts the average tin price down to 24 pence per can, which I find very reasonable given that it's more consistent in quality than the cheapest option. But, as I've been saying, everything has gone up in price this year, so instead of 95 pence, a 4-pack of beans now costs £1.09, which itself is like a 15% increase. But here's the really sneaky thing, which probably nobody else has noticed apart from me. These labels imply that you get this multi-buy price if you get 4 of these cans. But the discount only applies to those 4 packs sold in those little cardboard cartons. If you just buy 4 tins, then you'll be charged £1.40, which is a whopping 47% more than the 4-pack used to cost. Disgusting. And sure enough, they never have the 4 packs in stock, only the individual cans, of which the discount does not apply to. I fell for this one time thinking that buying 4 packs would trigger the same £1.09 discount pricing. When I was charged extra, I kicked off big time, and as a gesture of goodwill they gave me the £1.09 price, but as a one-time thing, and then they removed the questionable looking multi-buy labels. Which I think is fair enough, because clearly the staff were confused by it as well. Those discounted 4-packs are now always out of stock. The price of these beans has effectively increased from 24 to 37 pence per can, which far outstrips what inflation is meant to be. In short, thanks to a combination of price increases, unavailable deals, and cheaper options being out of stock, the price of an item in Lidl or Aldi has increased by almost 50%. Thank goodness tins of beans haven't yet suffered from shrinkflation, though I suspect that'll be next. I like to think I'm savvy with my prices and discounts, but even I wouldn't notice if sizes of most of the stuff I buy was reduced by a few grams. And looking today, it seems like a lot of the things that I buy are now super vague weights, like 227 grams, which have clearly at some point dropped from an older weight of 250 grams, and it now makes it far harder to calculate the value per 100 grams unless they list it somewhere. And even then, is there anyone who remembers the old prices per 100 grams? Luckily, there's a happy ending to my bean story, and as a result, the price of my shopping has actually dropped slightly. I have got around the bean situation by resorting to the value range, which right now seems to be offering a similar quality of bean, but at the low price of 22 pence. It's out of stock a lot of the time, which means I buy more of them when they're in stock, meaning that I'm now part of the problem. But sometimes, everything is out of stock, apart from the Heinz option, which obviously I'm not going to buy. So instead I go somewhere else, and I even find myself shopping in expensive shops like Sainsbury's. Let me explain. Remember when shops used to drop their prices occasionally? Those were the good old days. We're now living through the horrible new days, where the best deal we can hope for is a price lock where they promise they won't increase the price of stuff for at least 2 months. It's not quite as appealing, is it? But because everybody is finally cottoning on to how awesome Lidl and Aldi are, the other supermarket chains are doing this thing where they match those shops on prices. It's a shame they're not trying to undercut them and start a price war, but on the other hand, fair enough, they're matching shops which are designed to be as cheap as possible. Good on them. And it's good for us too. This generosity is only reserved for the limited range of items that Audi also offers, mind. I'll be going around a bigger shop like Morrison's thinking, Christ, that's expensive, Christ, that's expensive. Then when I eventually see something like paracetamol that's a decent price, I'll shout out loud, Christ, that's good value for money, and then we'll notice it's because it's been price matched with Audi. But what this means is that these other shops have actually become a better place to shop than Audi. Firstly, because they match their prices. Secondly, because they do offer more variety should you want one of their awesome freshly made pizzas. And third, because these other supermarkets seem to have a stronger supply chain than Audi or Lidl do right now. So while the 4-pack of beans in Lidl might be perpetually out of stock, Sainsbury's has no problem stocking Lidl price-matched baked beans. So these other shops really have become a better place for me to go, even though it's clearly not fair because they wouldn't have done this without Audi and Lidl having done it in the first place. But it's hardly like I'm rooting for the underdog anymore, now that Audi is actually bigger than Morrison's is. So there you go. People love to criticise England for being rubbish, but one thing I've always been proud of is how cheap its supermarkets are. Every town will have at least a few big names, competing against each other and keeping the prices reasonable. And with the advent of Audi and Lidl, it's clear it's what the people want too. So even though prices are now shooting up, there are still good deals to be had, at least for now. But the rise has started, and even the reliable staples of an Englishman's diet have started to increase. You know those 2-litre bottles of cider which have seemingly been priced at £1.99 forever? Even those are beginning to drop below the standard 5% strength, and to push beyond the £2 barrier. The end is nigh.